Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us for this latest of TravMedia Meets, our webinars for travel industry PRs. I'm Henry Hemming, Managing Director of TravMedia UK. Lovely to have you here. So today we've got a TravMedia Meets the Team, and we're delighted, indeed thrilled, to be meeting the entire senior team of National Geographic Traveller here. We've got 6 people to introduce you to, and a fantastic event ahead. I'm delighted to say we've had over 160 people register for the event. I think that's not surprising given the caliber of panelists that we have here today. So I'm going to just introduce the National Geographic team so they can give you a wave. I'll cover off a little bit of housekeeping and then we will get started. So in no particular order, I've got Pat Riddell, the editor. Hi, Pat. Great to have you here today.
Thanks, Henry. Good to see you all.
Maria Pieri, editorial director. Hi, Maria.
Hi.
Amelia Duggan, acting deputy editor.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Amelia. Sarah Barrell, associate editor. Glen Mutel, executive editor.
Hello.
And last but by no means least, Matt Midworth, who is head of special projects. Hi, Matt. Great to have you here.
Hi. Thanks, Henry.
Fantastic. So the National Geographic team is here to provide you today with some essential insights into their editorial remit, their editorial vision, and also let you know about how this fits in with the National Geographic brand internationally. And of course, quite important to our audience, how they interface with PRs, how they work with PRs day to day on their different pages and online and all the rest of it. So it's great to be meeting everyone today. Today's webinar obviously comes at a time of significantly renewed optimism for a return to normality in this industry that we love so much, with the announcement of 3 workable vaccines for the epidemic. And Pat, I was delighted to see you appropriately quoted in a press release about your forthcoming Jan-Feb edition, where you feature a Best of the World 2021 list. Pat said as follows, and I think this embodies how everyone in our audience must be feeling today. Pat Riddell, editor of National Geographic Traveller, said, "Coronavirus may well have scuppered many of our travel plans in 2020, but it has not quashed our desire to see the world. And while we dream of distant shores and warmer climes, this Best of the World list recognises the extraordinary destinations we can look forward to visiting when the time comes." Well, hear to that, and I hope that that time is coming very, very soon indeed. I'm going to ask our audience, as ever, to post questions. We need questions, so do start thinking about to our panelists in general or to one in particular. Zoom will tell me your name, but it won't tell me your company. So just in case I don't know your company, maybe type a question and then put your company at the end. We love social media. We love your Instagram stories you've done in the past. So the hashtag is TravMedia Meets, and our handles are @NatGeoTravelUK. So that's @NatGeoTravelUK and @TravMedia_UK. We'd love to see some posts, put a smile on everyone's faces. So we've got a presentation coming up, and to kick things off, we've got Pat Riddell. So Pat, with us today, and over to you.
Thanks, Henry. We've got a few slides here we thought we'd show. It's not a sort of formal presentation, but something to kind of guide you through the magazine here. So yeah, these are the main titles. We've got obviously the main mag is 10 issues a year. We have National Geographic Traveller Food, which Glen Mutel edits as well. That's 4 issues a year. That launched as a standalone issue in the summer. It's been going a couple of years now. It was being distributed and bundled with the main mag newsstand and subscriptions, but that is available as a standalone. And then the supplements, we'll come on to those later as well. But we've got, as it says there, usually four sponsor-led guides a year, and we have editorial-led ones as well. So if you've got the mag, you'll have seen Lombardy and Winter Sports with the November-December issue. There's all our faces and titles, as you can see. And then, so yeah, quick run through 2020. The Jan-Feb issue, as you might have seen, the Best of the World announced in the press last week. That's our cover story for the Jan-Feb issue. That's our 10th anniversary next week. Somehow we've been going for a decade now. I kind of thought we might have a party, but that might have to be postponed for a few months still. ABC figures came out in February, so this was for 2019. We had a 22% increase, up to almost 50,000 there. Obviously, this year has been a bit different in terms of distribution and newsstand sales, but we hit over 30,000 subscriptions during the summer, having more than doubled since 14,000 in March, which makes us now the most subscribed to travel magazine in the UK. So that's been a big success for us this year, in times that everyone's obviously struggled with. Social media's now almost up to 300,000 followers. Facebook, Instagram engagement have been really big for us this year. Instagram especially, we were, I think, something like 30,000 followers a year or so back, and it's more than doubled now, 64,000 followers I think we've got there. Obviously, the pandemic really started to hit during March, so we merged our May-June issue. The July-August issue is normally merged anyway, and then again we merged September, October, and November, December. So we've had a big focus on online there. The Stay Inspired campaign, as you can see, delivered over 118,000 page views. There was the web traffic from, I think, sort of May, June onwards, May, June, July, was up by about a third. So although the print publication was sort of staggered slightly, we maintained an online presence there. Best of the World was launched last week to coincide with the US campaign. We'll come on to that shortly, but they had 18,000 page views in I think 9 days since it launched. So that's, like I say, the cover story for next issue. Most of the awards there were back end of last year, but we were named Best Consumer Travel Magazine at the British Travel Awards for the 4th time. British Guild of Travel Writers, we had the Writer of the Year again for the 4th year in a row. We picked up Travel Writer of the Year at the ATO Awards and Young Travel Writer at the TravMedia Awards. Last year was quite a big year for awards. This year's, I think we're still waiting for most of those awards to happen, if they have indeed happened. And then, as you may well know, the US title closed a year or so back, and we are now largely contributing content to the 16 local language editions around the world. So there's NGTs in Latin America, China, Germany, France, and beyond. So lots of the content we create is translated and the images taken and reproduced in different titles around the world. I'll run over the forthcoming issues here. We're not going to go too far ahead. We're obviously planning what we can, traveling where we can, and hoping the end of lockdown and the changing of the isolation kind of times, and hopefully a vaccine may well kick in some point in the next few months, which will enable us to send our writers and photographers around the world again. But the Jan-Feb issue is out next Thursday, December 3rd. Best of the World here is the big global campaign this year. There are 25 destinations featured, selected by the editors around the world. We've added a further 10 in just to kind of give that extra content to our readers. So there's more domestic, more short haul in there, a bit more balance for our audiences. And you've also got big features in there on the French Pyrenees, Indonesia. We've got Los Angeles hotels. There's quite a bit coming up there. March issue, looking ahead, that's coming out in February. So we're back to our 10 issue frequency from next year. That's focused on Namibia. That's going to be a kind of wider look at the destination, reviews of the lodges, tours, self-drive trips, interviews with guides. And the April issue then, which will be out in March, will be covering mainland Greece, so olive groves, vineyards, Macedonia, Peloponnese, and also covering the cities Athens and Thessaloniki. I'll pass over to Amy Duggan and Sarah Barrell, who will give you kind of an overview of the what's the content in the magazine there.
Well, Sarah, should we talk a little bit about how we work as well? So,
how do we work, Amy? Tell us.
Well, Sarah, myself, and absent from this call is Conor McGovern, share sort of a lot of the editing and commissioning responsibilities, day-to-day stuff. And here we've got a bit of a breakdown of some of the features on the left. Sarah, do you want to kick off for a couple and then I'll take a couple?
Yeah, sure. So destination features are probably our big USP for us, because we do long form narratives, which not many magazines or those that are left standing don't tend to run to such long word counts. So these are really kind of, as NG US like to say, you are there travel. It's really a kind of colourful place first type features. We've done, I'm just looking at last feature schedule for last year. We did everything from Sri Lanka to Guyana, Israel, Guatemala, Mumbai. So you know, we have quite a big scope, some big magazine to cover, you know, a huge amount of sort of geographical spread with each issue, and these are the ones that of course the writers want to do. Yeah, so I'd say they're our sort of big hitting features. I'll hand over to Amy for city guides.
Sure. So we do a handful of different city pieces. We have City Lives, sort of in-depth long read one, and a more formatted sort of overview, but both have an emphasis on local travel, how to do it a bit differently, authentically. And I should say, for the city pieces and the destination features that Sarah just talked about, we normally like to get them shot by a photographer. So the imagery for these main features in the magazine and the cover stories is really pretty sensational. And we've got the Weekender there, which is a bit like what it sounds. It's itinerary for a 2 or 3 day weekend, something a bit different. We have done a lot more domestic in recent months for obvious reasons, but yeah, also some short haul destinations there. Sarah, do you want to keep going?
Yeah, so eat, I'm not going to go into this too much because Glen will talk to you much more extensively about food, but this is our way of looking at a region or a city through the prism of its food culture. It's lively, it's savvy, but accessible. Yeah, and I won't go on because Glen can be much more insightful about that. Sleep, similarly, is just a really kind of savvy, snappy roundup of new hotels in a destination. Or sort of an overview of new and some, you know, landmarks. These are usually kind of big cities. We return to them as and when is needed in terms of, you know, kind of high profile openings. Smart Traveller, goodness, Amy, where do we start with that?
Yes.
This is our sort of front end newsy stuff, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably where we're most reactive to what's happening out there. We go to press with these pages closer to press deadline than everything else. Obviously, our destination features tend to be commissioned much further ahead. Smart Travellers, sort of, you know, new openings, newsy stuff. I'm just trying to think what we've done recently, Amy. We've done some great stories on sort of UK and close to home, slow ways. You can talk about that.
Yeah, new museums. We love some openings, sort of hotel trends. Yeah, we've sort of really fetishized the new there. So yeah, we can do little country profiles sometimes if a destination's got a lot of interesting things coming up. Like I think Washington, DC has some anniversaries and some openings coming up, as well as being quite interesting for political reasons at the moment. So that's in the next issue. So yes, there's sort of opportunities there. We'd love to hear about.
That's probably where for PRs looking for sort of short turnaround, that's where we're probably most useful to you. There's some really great photography pieces in there as well, which our design team largely commission. but they've always got a kind of good editorial newsy angle to them. Travel geeks, this is the back end of the section. If you want to know about kind of airline trends, if you want to come to a little bit of a travel clinic at the back and ask questions like, how do I get insurance during COVID times? This is where you go to. There's everything from kit lists to Q&As. There's a big section called the info, which is a kind of graphic take on something. We've done everything from retiring of the Boeing 737 to, what else have we done? Passports, the best passports in the world. So this is a sort of fun but geeky section at the back, and it's supposed to be sort of largely practical. Yeah, additional features, Amy, what would you say? What
Yeah, so a few things drop in and out. Our formats tend to be pretty consistent. Sometimes we do neighbourhood guides, so we'll take a city and break it down into 3 interesting districts, and that's a nice long read. And we do photography stories too, so that's just a visual essay. Competitions are every issue. If you've got a trip of a lifetime or a domestic getaway and you'd like to partner with us, that'd be wonderful. They've been doing really well this year in particular, getting thousands and thousands of entries, and we can share opt-in data, and they get publicised in print, in our newsletters, online, on the website. So that's a lovely opportunity. And sort of talking about partnering on things, you'll see on this right-hand column, we have a few sort of calendar events, sort of either features or competitions that we run every year that you can also get involved with. The photography competition is what it sounds like. We are looking for the hottest new UK photographers, and there is a sort of a prize, which is a trip of a lifetime. And we advertise that prize quite widely as we run the competition. Similar for our travel writing competition, we also looking for a grand prize and can advertise that quite widely. Our reader awards are slightly different. It didn't happen this year, but normally we curate a long list of really exceptional destinations or travel experiences, and we get our readers to vote online, and there are incentives to vote. And we celebrate the winners of those categories at a very glitzy awards show in October, November time, and I hope some of you have been along. But yes, look forward to running that again next year. So if your destination or your brand, your hotel, your airline has been doing interesting things, keep us informed, and that's great. And then the hotel awards you might know better as our Big Sleep Awards. In past years, we are looking to sort of rebrand, but that's the best hotels that have opened in the last 12 to 16 months. And it's a gorgeous feature with lots of different categories. They're really fun. Have a look at past issues. And yeah, a lot of these get quite a lot of press coverage as well. Photography competition in particular normally gets picked up by some of the nationals and regionals because it is rather gorgeous. This is still me. So I am, as well as acting deputy editor, I am covering for Josephine Price, who is on maternity leave. She's our digital editor. So this year, our online offering has been slightly expanded, which is exciting. So as Pat mentioned earlier, because we were slightly reduced in print issues, we decided to really expand our offering on the website. So we do lots of original content. I should say that the print issue also goes online. It's translated quite savvily for our online and social communities. But we do these online pieces, and there are a few examples here for you. They're a really nice way to get involved. If you're a destination who have interviewees, we can maybe spotlight them. So we have this Meet the Adventurer series. They're normally adventurers with a bit of a profile. So we do an interview with them. Then we have the From My City to Yours one, which is, let me give you some examples. In the past, we've talked to Klaus Meyer in Copenhagen, and his way of introducing Copenhagen to our readership through this interview was to talk about new Nordic cuisine and his history and where to eat. We've also done New York, and Brand USA were very kind to give us a really cool tour guide, and he talked about his city, and he does tours of the LGBTQ+ scene there and history. So we looked at New York through that sort of lens. And we do the Meet the Maker series. So far, it's a lot of food artisans, people doing interesting things with the culinary scene, but we're also sort of spreading out to do, for instance, I think we're going to do fantasy coffin makers in Accra. So there's opportunity if you've got interesting people to talk to from your destination to showcase them in our original online content. And you see some examples down there. We have long reads. Yes, we're working with PRs in lots of different ways in this region, but we can maybe talk more about that later.
Hi guys, that's over to me now. I'm the editorial director for the brand, and in terms of what I do, sometimes I do wonder, I'm not sure, but in theory, what I do is I work with the editorial team to plan the overarching vision and strategy for the brands, for both Traveller and for Food, and I look after their short and long-term goals. What this practically means is that I have fingers in lots of pies. I tend to look after a lot of the kind of peripheral products, or get involved in events, or we just look at new products each time. And I work closely with Matt Midworth and the commercial team to make sure that we're always coming up with inspiring ideas. So over to Travel Geeks. Travel Geeks is it used to be our live event, and this year it's been our virtual event. We've taken it virtual for the whole of the year. In fact, I think it's worked particularly well. We'll put links in here which we can share with you guys. The first one with Natural Japan is very much a promo of what we do. So we bring together a panel of 4 experts and they discuss the topic at hand. And we've done a great range of events this year, including Natural Japan and Valencia, and also the deconstructing Spanish cuisine. And they've all had really, really great response to them. In fact, probably had more response in some respects than the live events, if I can say that. We've had audiences of up to 500, and we've seen that very much the food events have done very well, very much tying into what we have seen in terms of online and in print, that, you know, food content is doing particularly well at the moment in terms of just tickling what everybody's doing at home. They're thinking about cooking all the time because that's all they can do, so hence the food content does well. So we've found that a lot of the PR companies and tourist boards are interested in these, and we love hosting them. They've been really great fun to do. And then moving straight on to our National Geographic Traveller other events, the big events. So the Food Festival, we held our first one in 2019. It was a roaring success, if I can say that. It almost killed us, but it was great. We had over 5,500 attendees. We had Raymond Blanc appear there. We had loads of chefs. It was really good fun to do, and we were looking forward to doing it again for this year. We had to move it eventually to next year because of obviously what's been going on, and we're hoping to host it live. We're already selling tickets, people are keen, so I think there's a real kind of a expectancy of a return to normal life, so we're hoping that will go ahead. And then in the meantime, we haven't been quiet in keeping up with other events. We did our first we did a very specific event with Italy on Tuesday called the Great Italian Food Journey, and we had Aldo Zilli there, and that was a kind of he took us through Italy with Joe Hurd. They talked about, they created some dishes, spaghetti carbonara, and we also then had very much an unusual Q&A at the end where people were sent in advance a food package including wine, when they could do some wine tasting and talk to the chefs in a very one-to-one manner, which actually worked really well. And then this year, Pat reminded me that we actually did the masterclass at the beginning of the year. I'd forgotten. I thought we did it last year. It's been such a long year, but we do plan to do those again. I'm hoping that we might do them virtually in the spring. So we're looking forward to hosting those again. And then before I go there, in fact, I'm going to go back. I'm going to hand over to the commercial side of stuff with Matt Midworth.
Thanks, Maria. Yes, so I head up the commercial team for Nat Geo Traveller. We've got a team of 10 people working on partnerships with destinations and brands from all over the world to get their message out to our readers. Mainly, this is partner content, which is NG's term for advertorial. And all our partner content is governed by the same rigorous guidelines as our editorial. So it all has to go through NG in Washington. right from the very inception all the way through to the end and be approved by NG, which can lead to delays, and it does take a little bit of time, but it does mean that we end up with some fantastic partner content that we can be really, really proud of. It's every bit as good as our editorial features. Well, as far as I'm concerned, it is anyway. But yeah, it's really exciting to work with brands at the moment and destinations. We run across all our platforms, print, digital, and social, including video. And that can range from single articles all the way up to entire supplements. Maria, I think you've got a slide there on a couple of supplements. Those supplements can be either solely for one client on a destination, for example, or they can be themed around, say, winter sports, which is one that we do every year. We've just brought that out recently, or adventure travel. So partner content as a whole is a great way to tell your story to our readers at a time that you want to be telling it. The main magazine, Pat, Amy, Sarah, they're all working maybe 6-8 months in advance on the magazine. In terms of partner content, we can get something from inception all the way to being published within 2 months, sometimes even a little bit less than that. And that can be with a photographer and a writer visiting the destination for some of the bigger pieces, or written from a brief laid down by the client. So the client can be as involved as they want in terms of the brief, but then we go away and do what we're good at. As well as partner content, we also run 360 ad campaigns across all our platforms, branded advertising, as you can imagine. And the live events and virtual events are really taking off for us. That's a real growth area for us. It's a great way for brands to engage with our audience, our readers. The Aldo Zilli event, for example, for the Italian Tourist Board, that was a great example. And that's something hopefully we'll be working with a lot of other destinations on in the future. Maria, if you could just go on to the next slide. There's some info on our demographics there, our readership. I won't go through it all in minute detail. The big thing there is that we are now the biggest travel magazine in the UK in terms of subscribers. We've got over 30,000 subscribers. That's more subscribers than any other travel magazine in the UK. And our audience are affluent. They are real travelers. They're traveling short haul, long haul, on a regular basis. Not at the moment necessarily, but there's a lot of pent-up demand there for next year. And they're all looking for inspiration. In terms of our figures for the last 6 months during lockdown, it's really impressive to see how many of our readers are spending more time on our website, visiting more often, looking for that inspiration for that next trip as soon as they can make it. So yeah, we'd be delighted to work with you, with your clients, with your brands, with your destinations to get that message across for you. And now hand over to Glen.
Hello, hi everybody. My name's Glen. I am the editor of National Geographic Traveller Food, which is a very long title. It's a lot of nouns stitched together. Internally, we just call it Food. We've been going since 2018. We're a quarterly, and I work with my deputy, Nikki Trupp, who many of you will have dealt with. She answers her emails a lot quicker than I do. And Farida Zainalova, who's my occasional assistant editor, who's also very good. So we're like a little team of 3. We've been going since 2018, and as Pat said, this is the first year where we've become standalone. So you can find us on the newsstands now. We're no longer polybagged with Traveller. We are our own beast. We go in the food section, so alongside Olive and BBC Good Food and magazines like that, which is quite nice for us because it means when you look at the newsstand, you can see that yellow border popping up all over the place. So that's good. Our summer issue was our first issue to go in the newsstand. Our most recent one was a second. Our approach is we cover the twin worlds of food and travel. We made a decision very early on that we wouldn't silo those twin angles. We wouldn't have our food pages in one section, our travel pages in another. here's a restaurant, here's a castle, that kind of thing. We decided what we would do is acknowledge the fact that in some respects, and for many people, these two worlds are intertwinable and inseparable. So we look at the world through the various cuisines, and we also we focus on food that has an international angle, you know, food from all around the world. In each edition, we have we have 8 big features. So we have a cover story, a destination feature. We have a deconstruct feature where we look at the history and the secrets of a certain classic dish. We're doing ceviche at the moment. The last issue, we did steak and kidney pie. So that's that feature. We've also got the breaking bread feature that we do, in which we send a journalist and a photographer to go and break bread with a local family and eat a traditional meal with a family or a group of friends in destination. That's a very popular feature, and it's one we work very closely with PRs to get up and running, because it takes some setting up. And then there's other big features like the books feature, in which we look at a recent cookbook and look at all the recipes within. And we've got things like City Break, and we've got a feature called A Taste Of, which is a 4-page series of eyewitnesses, which is quite good for press trips. So that's our features. Our cover stories tend to be quite varied, as you can see from the slide in front of you. They might be roundup in nature. They might cover things like winter warmers or slow burners or food festivals, or they might be issue based. So they might cover issues such as veganism. They might be a bit more thematic, like the summer issue, or they might cover a specific ingredient. So you can see our most recent one was all about cheese, and earlier in the year we did a cover story that was all about bread, looking at the different attitudes to bread around the world and the different types of bread you can get in various cuisines around the world. In terms of writers and how we find people and our work with PRs, it tends to depend. Being food, we quite like for some features to use writers in destinations. I mean, a lot of travel magazines are going this way anyway because of the COVID restrictions, but we operated a bit like that anyway. For our City Break format, for example, the food scene moves so quickly in some cities that by the time you've sent somebody out there and they've had a look around, things have changed. So we like to find writers in destinations. But for other features, our destination features, we do still send people out, and we do still need assistance. We need a lot of help from tourist boards. And we also, we come up with a lot of the ideas ourselves, but we also are open to ideas. I think one of our best features ever came actually from a tourist board. We had a feature on the German obsession with white asparagus. And that idea came out of a lunch with the German tourist board. They suggested that, and that was instantly struck me as a great idea, because there was so much to unpack, so many different approaches to it. And that feature won an award in America, not even over here, but an American award scheme. So there's still plenty we can do with PRs. Even though we're only a quarterly, we've still got enough slots to make it worth everybody's while. And that's us for the moment. That's us. We've got 4 issues this year. The next issue coming out in spring, the cover story will be on breakfasts. The issue after that coming out in July, the cover story is going to be on Italy. And then there's 2 more to come after that as well. And everything else I think has already been touched upon. So thanks very much.
Good. Are we just about there, Maria, do you think? We've covered the team?
I think we have. I mean, the only thing I think that we might have just missed at the beginning, I suppose, for us is just to say, you know, it has been a really tough year. We did definitely merge some of the issues, but next year we are happily returning to a 10-issue frequency, and then with food as well, it'll be another 4 issues. So 14 issues from us next year, plus the supplements. So we're kind of looking forward to next year, hopefully returning to some kind of normality, at least in frequency anyway. So yeah, and hopefully with travel returning. Yes, that is us.
Good. Yeah, let's all hope travel returns. You drive ahead as the UK's leading consumer travel magazine. That's fantastic. Well, I've got questions building up, but I'm going to remind our audience we love questions, so do please post more. I'll take them from the top. Some really interesting stuff there. I thought about authentic, real experiences with local people. Amelia talked about you had the I think Meet the Adventure might be called, where we saw a lady who spends her days diving in glacier infested seas. You know, you said it's useful in quasi celebrity status, maybe a bit of an influencer or whatever, but that was good. And then Glen talked about, you know, breaking bread, eating with a local family. That's such a brilliant idea for a feature. Superb. So on this note, and I don't know who's going to answer this, but Carolyn Spinks at ABTOI, the Association of British Tour Operators to Italy, says, is there scope to submit insider tips coming from people who know cities intimately? Anything from where to get the best city views away from the crowds, or where to buy local artisan produce. Amelia, would you maybe cover that first, and then Glen from a food angle?
Yes, that's all very interesting. I think that's definitely the sort of thing we like to hear about. Would that be destination specific then?
ABTOI is a consortium of all tour operators to Italy. So
Italy, sorry, I missed that key word. Right. Yeah. Well, no, that would be wonderful, and we love Italy. I don't know if you saw our recent issue. That cover story was really about getting under the skin of places and going off the beaten track. And maybe that's a bit of a cliche, but we really do believe there are lots of stories to be told from hidden corners. And yeah, insider tips is sort of really what we care about, and artisans doing interesting things, people upholding traditions, interesting people. Maybe I don't know, I'm thinking about our next week cover, and some of the people we're hoping to talk to are sort of younger people who are moving into sort of the vineyards to uphold family traditions. They're sort of almost going back to their roots. These kind of trends are really, really interesting. So yes, would love to hear about those sort of things.
And pitch to you, and it's helpful if they've got a local person that you can focus on.
Well, yes, potentially. We do quite a lot of interviews in print, but especially online, which I've been focusing on quite a lot recently. There's a lot of scope to foreground, like you said, sort of adventurers with a profile, or local people who are doing something really interesting, and who sort of shed a light on a particular facet of a destination. So yes, that would be wonderful. Please do pitch.
And Glen, how would a local tourism board or a tour operator pitch a local foodie to you?
Just with an email, just setting out what it is. I mean, for food, that kind of thing's quite good really for food, because the thing about having two subject matters for your magazine is that it isn't all travel. I mean, it can be what our readers tend to want to know is if there's something about the eating habits of an overseas destination that they think they know that they didn't know about. You know, the German asparagus one was great, because who knew that the Germans were obsessed with white asparagus? I certainly didn't. So that's an example of local knowledge, really. I mean, I would say if anyone wanted to pitch me someone offering tips as to where to eat and what to eat, it's always good to get a clear idea as to who these people are, because these pieces always have an afterlife online, and they're kind of headed differently online. And if people are going to click on them, they're going to want to know who it is that's doing the recommended. And it doesn't have to be someone famous, and it doesn't have to be someone super impressive. You know, it could be someone quietly impressive. But as long as we know who they are and what angle they're coming from, why they're doing the recommended. It could be, you know, a local wine grower could be recommending the various wines from the region, or it could be someone who's just worked in restaurants, third generation or something. Could be anyone, but it'd be good if we knew a bit about them, the person the tourist board has found to make these recommendations, and then we'll know how to lead with the piece, not only in print but when it has its afterlife online. And you have to be very everything has to be up front online. Who's saying this? Why are they saying it? Why should you click on it? You know. But yes, yeah, email things to me. If you think something might work in the magazine, just email it to me and Nikki, and we'll have a look.
Okay, one for maybe Pat and possibly Sarah as well. Similar question from two people. Victoria Carmen at Flamingo Marketing. How do you choose a destination over another? What is it that kind of really tickles you? And I've got Nim Singh, head of PR at Destination Canada. What makes you choose a destination or city over another?
I'll kick off with that. Sarah might want to dive in. Yeah, I mean, we've got limited space with 10 issues a year. You know, one cover story per issue, 2 main destinations. So it is quite tricky what we pick there. But I think, you know, over the past decade now, we try and cover the world as best we can in each issue, and over the year we try and balance that as well. And obviously over time we try and balance out those destinations. So over the year we'll probably have, you know, a couple of short haul cover stories, a couple of long haul cover stories, some thematic kind of ones, and then as those destinations may well be places like New Zealand or Italy, you know, destinations that people know well or have always had on their kind of list to travel to if they haven't been. And then we'll balance that with places like Namibia or Vietnam or Peru, places that are kind of up and coming, where there've been new routes, where there's kind of, you know, new developments, new hotels, tour operators kind of moving in. They're often destinations that seem like they're on the cusp of kind of breaking out, you know, the way that I suppose Vietnam did recently, you know, kind of followed in the footsteps Thailand was maybe 20 years ago. And then it's often, like I say, it's often that balance of, well, if we've done New York this month, it'll be, you know, New York will come around, London, New York, Paris will come around probably every year. Other cities will try and balance it. So if we've got Genoa coming up this year, we'll think about Florence or Naples next year. If we've done New Orleans or Miami, it'll be Portland or Chicago the next year. If we've done a Canada feature, you know, Canada will come around once a year. If it's not a destination feature, it'll be Vancouver, Toronto. So we try and balance it. We try and get the bigger features, a good spread of those places. I think someone mentioned about domestic coverage. We've done more domestic stuff recently, but I think really, you know, for not just this year, since we launched, the mag's been about escapism. It's been about inspiration. It's been about feeding, you know, the rest of the world to the readers. It's something you can sit in an armchair and read, and, you know, and not necessarily go to all these places. Some people really enjoy kind of getting under the skin and finding out about these destinations just through reading and, you know, absorbing the photography, if you like. Some people start, you know, making notes and adding those destinations to their list. So we've always kind of had that that balance, I think, of the immediate domestic short haul kind of trips you can do, and then those ones where you might never go to the Antarctic, but you'd like to read about it. Obviously, you know, some people will save up and book that cruise. So I suppose there's no simple answer of how we choose, but we do try and balance the issues and the destinations as we go along.
Very good. Couple of questions from the cruise market. I've got Frangelica Fluke from Cedar Tree, and I also had a question from Brian Gammon at Viking. How important, well, is cruise going to become a more important part of your play in the future? And also a specific question for Matt, what's the age demographic of your readership? So is cruise going to be important in the future, and who are you marketing to?
I'll go with the cruise one quickly before going on to Matt. Yeah, cruise is really important for us. It's normally, you know, keeping with the ethos of the mag, it's normally more adventure or river, or I think cruise is where the destination plays a really important part. I think our readers are keen to go to those destinations. Sometimes cruise is the best way of getting there. We've got a cruise special in the March issue. So Jan Feb's out next week. March is already underway. So we're looking at, I think, some of the best ways and the best places to cruise to in the coming year and beyond. And then beyond that, you know, we regularly have Galapagos, Antarctica, Norway, you know, maybe Mekong or Rhine or Danube river cruises. So they do come up quite frequently. I don't know if we'll be featuring them more, but times change, and we kind of take each issue and each month as it comes, certainly at the moment. Matt, do you want to move on to the demographics?
Yeah, so the 65 plus, I think Brian was particularly interested in. That accounts for about 17% of our readership, which is going up slightly year on year as the older generation is getting a little bit more active. The bulk of our readers, though, are in that sort of 35 to 55 bracket. That's accounts for about 40% of our readers. That's in print, though. In digital, our demographics are a lot younger. So on digital, 53% of our readers are under the age of 35. So yeah, the 65 plus on digital, as you'd expect, is considerably lower. But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Very good. Question from Paul Sharman of Hebridean Adventures. As a wildlife cruise operator, we provide a lot of sightings data to our conservation partners, but we're now becoming involved in a new initiative that offers a more hands-on experience to travellers who are interested in getting involved in citizen science efforts. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but are you interested, Nat Geo, in covering kind of experiential holidays like that and getting involved in green projects and so forth? Who would like to take that?
Amy, do you want to take that? I mean, the short answer is yes, but yes, of course.
Amy?
We did one of our What's New pages, our more newsy pages up front. This summer we talked about, is it Daniel Raven Ellison's Slowways project, and that's a sort of almost crowdsourced in its way. And we also talked about different community science projects you can do around the world and get involved with, either online or in person. It's a really interesting element of travel, and something it could either be in a news roundup or maybe something longer as a report or an experience. But that's really on brand for us. I think it's something our readers would definitely like. I'd love to hear more.
Very good. A couple of questions on kind of deadlines. Kate Simon of Travel Tappers says, what issues are you working on right now? Is it too late to pitch stories of possible interest for the food summer issue? But I've also got Rose Tigey. I got her surname wrong last time. I hope I've got it right, Rose, from the Cayman Islands Department of Tourism, saying, has the content of the spring issue of food been finalised, Glen?
The spring issue, we're more or less there. It's more or less, we know what we're going to write. It's just a case of writing it. The summer issue is full of holes. So they want to send things for the summer issue, they can be my guest. I mean, but I'll send things always anyway, because you never know things. Sometimes the issue goes up quite late in the day. Sometimes things don't quite work out when it comes to putting them on the page. Sometimes the images don't work out. Sometimes, things change. Spring is largely done. Summer, there's much to do. So that's the general guideline.
Is there anything on food that you just never get and you wish you got from PRs?
I wouldn't say there's anything I never get.
Yeah.
Things I like to get are characters I would be unable to find myself. So if there is someone with a bit of local renown whose fame hasn't reached Hertfordshire, which is where I am, in the coldest room in the world, if there's someone like that, then alert us to them, because it's people like that who are those people who don't seek fame but who are very much into what they do and are very interesting because of it, and have that kind of magical sincerity that most of us lack. They're the people I want in the magazine. They tend to talk really well about food, and they tend to have a story to tell that my readers have yet to hear. So that kind of person.
Very nicely crafted question from Josie Self at Hills Balfour, who says, earlier this year, someone announced the death of the city break. So it's reassuring for Nat Geo Traveller to agree that these cultural melting pots still have a lot to offer via their neighbourhoods and local perspectives. That said, urban destinations will need to pivot to ensure they stay attractive to international travellers. So how important is it for Nat Geo Traveller to communicate new urban safety and health protocols to your audience? Who would like to answer that?
I can answer if you
Yeah,
like. I mean,
sure.
some of these questions, I think it's obviously really important. We've been talking very much about how we talk about COVID in the magazine. It's been hard in the short term because obviously a lot of our features were done in advance. So it was pre-COVID. So up until this issue, I would say mostly the content didn't touch on it as much as it could have done. And I think from here on in, you'll find most of the writers, both in the longer features and even in the shorter features, front and back, we will of course be discussing it. I think it's actually a great time to go and experience cities. I very much thought, you know, and it's an odd thing to say, but when we did have that gap in July, August, it was almost like, actually, it's a great time to go into London. I live in London because it was so quiet. So it's actually, if we can get that across to people that it is, you know, if you follow the rules and if you are doing it safely, it's quite a good time to go and explore a lot of the cities that perhaps you wouldn't have thought to do. So of course we will encourage that and try and do it as safely and as kind of health consciously as possible to ensure that we can still deliver this great content. So yes, absolutely.
Just something to add on that, Henry. When it comes to cities, I mean, I think city breaks will never die. Anecdotally, I've spent the whole year dreaming about going back to Amsterdam more than going to a beach, really. It's people I miss, you know, good Lord. But I will say, I suppose one of the things people may have meant when they say the city break is dead, which is an unfortunate way to put it, is we'll have to have a good long think about how we get to these cities. And I think what might have had its day a little bit is the idea of flying to a different city every weekend. And visiting them that way. So I think city breaks will need a bit of a rethink in that respect. I think there might be a lot more sort of train journeys to cities, and people might ration them and then go for longer. But they still have a glittering future, or at least they do in my house. So.
Terrific. No, very nicely put. Maria, very quick one for you. So Madeline Shilgert, Siren, quick off the mark, wants to know who is the best contact for the cruise supplement then?
Actually, I think that's Sarah.
Sorry, Sarah.
Is it Sarah?
Sarah, can you unmute, please?
That's Pat, actually.
Oh, it's Pat. Pat, did you? Wasn't sure who commissioned that in the end.
Passing it all around.
We're passing it around.
we've got a cruise. It's just a cruise section rather than supplement for the March issue that has been commissioned and copies due imminently. So that's kind of being put together. But if you've got, you know, cruise news, cruise stories, cruise things you want to send us for future consideration or news, or, you know, I mean, the main features are planned quite far ahead. You know, we reiterate, you know, the destinations, the cruise pieces, the food pieces. You know, the stories are really intrinsic to the whole thing. Getting that kind of local, authentic kind of experience really counts for a lot. And the front and back sections, there's a lot more scope to kind of put things in, not last minute perhaps, but, you know, a lot closer to deadline. And I mean, you know, at the moment we're okay for a few issues, but the destinations often shift around in the year ahead as well, depending on what's happened in the destination itself or in the world, or just how the pieces sort of come together. So there's always scope, if not, you know, short term, medium, long, especially.
Fantastic.
And just to say, Sarah does look after the winter sports supplement, which might be worth thinking about now-ish, although I know that Germany is currently trying to halt the travel to ski destinations right now. We are hoping, obviously, in January, February, March, it might change a bit. So if we do try and pull together a winter sports guide, that will be Sarah. Sarah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, we've just gone to press on one now, which was obviously optimistic and determined, and it looks great. But that will go up online as and when things are possible in terms of travel corridors and whatnot. And certainly next year, it's been an annual thing for how many years, Maria, now? A few years. So we're quite wedded
like 5
to
years.
our winter sports.
Yeah,
5 years or so.
If not, I wonder if, well, again, you know, throw it back over to the PRs. I mean, you know, we'd be keen on re-looking at an adventure guide if winter sports doesn't work, because I think then we could incorporate some of the winter sports into it. So that could work quite well. the guides tend to be a combination of editorial-led or sponsored, but we do try and get at least a couple of editorial ones in there. So we're hoping for next year that we could do either winter sports or adventure. I think we'll have a look at that.
Very good. Jane Harris of Wales asked about online. With online topics, do you kind of really focus on what readers have reached out to you for? Do your readers have particular preferences for online material? I think also how do PRs pitch online ideas to you? Who would like to
do send me ideas. I work quite closely with Nora, who is assistant digital editor. So the pair of us would be the people to send any ideas to. I sort of talked about some of the more regular formats we do. We can be flexible. There are, we can do sort of medium length experiential reads, other pieces. So yeah, do get in touch with us. And in terms of what our readers are really enjoying, some surprising successes actually. A lot of the domestic content did really well this year for us, so we've been focusing quite a bit on that. But equally, we've done some photo stories that have done incredibly well. We worked with Ray Mears, who was out in Kangaroo Island in Australia following the bushfires, and he, I didn't know this, but is a beautiful photographer, and shared with us this photo essay that we ran online with an interview, and that was incredibly successful. So it really does vary. We sort of champion conservation stories, recovery stories, resilience stories, local characters, domestic content. It's really quite wide ranging. So lots of different ways to work together.
And it tends to be that the lead time is a lot shorter on the online. So if it's something that you don't specifically need in print, then do get in touch with us, because that's something that we can pull together quite quickly. I mean, sometimes Amy, well, all of us in the team will have an original content meeting, as we call it, and within 2 weeks we'll have turned around that piece of content. So it's worth bearing that in mind.
Cool. I'm going to ask Matt if you can unmute a commercial question, because I think it's just genuinely interesting to our audience. If a brand who hasn't worked with National Geo Traveller comes to you, maybe a destination, a tourist board, they haven't worked with you before, you know, what is your offer to them? How do you go about engaging a tourist board, and what can you deliver them?
Well, first of all, it's about finding out what they're looking to achieve.
Yeah.
You know, are they looking to get their brand out there? Are they looking to tell a particular story? What works very well with us, as you can see from all the editorial comments that we've had here, is it's about us telling stories. That's what NG does, and that's what we're renowned for doing. So, you know, it's about trying to dig down into what that destination or what that brand wants to be engaging our readers about, and then trying to fit that with a solution, whether that's events or partner content or branded advertising.
Any parts of the world you're looking to expand your reach with?
All parts of the world.
All parts of the world are considered. Okay, no, that's absolutely fine. I've got a question from Elizabeth Farley as well, who is from Pure MTB. How do you find local writers and photographers? How do you go about finding local writers? Maybe Amelia or Glen?
Oh, sorry, it all froze there for a minute. Apologies. Just to say, the reason I put my hand up to answer is because I did just this last night. So I've got a kind of very fresh example for you. In our next cover stories on breakfasts, and it's a collegiate story. There's lots of little bits from little places around the world. And it occurred to me that we didn't have anything on chilaquiles, you know, the Mexican breakfast, the tortilla-based Mexican breakfast. And I wanted a piece from someone in Mexico City, and what I wanted was them to compare the chilaquiles you get in 3 or 4 different restaurants, just to make the point that this is a breakfast item that varies greatly from serving to serving. So I went online and I looked for food writers in Mexico City, and I found 3 that I like the look of. I tried to dig out some of their writing, and then I ended up going with the one who had previously expressed most enthusiasm for the dish in her writing. And I emailed her last night. She got back to me, and I sent her the brief, and there we are. Now it's a bit of a punt. It's a bit of a, you know, a leap in the dark, but it's a short piece. And Nikki and I are experienced enough editors that we can make it what we need to make it if it doesn't quite, if it comes up short. But I don't think it will, because I like the sound of this writer I've found, and I think she sounds very promising. And then if that's a success, that's another writer we have in destination, and we'll use her again and again, and slowly our little network grows. With photographers, our designers do the same thing. It's a bit easier with photographers because photographers are really good at having their portfolios online, and you can actually see what you're going to get, and you can see proof that someone's done it before. Whereas with writers, when they have their work online, it's often edited work and you don't know how good the original copy was. So there's always a risk to it. But it's a bit of my job I find really enjoyable, you know, just approaching someone in a foreign city, you know, like a hand out of the dark, and say, I've been watching you, come write for me. It's good.
Yeah. When commissioning editors are looking for writers worldwide, TravMedia also issues what we call editors alerts in the different TravMedia regions of the world. And so long as they're paid, you know, local writers will absolutely jump at the opportunity to fulfill that commission request.
That's worked for us before as well. That's worked well for us too. Yeah.
Cool. That's great. So let's close on a question from the one and only Anna Watt from Wannabe PR. It's a nice one. Are you interested in glamping and camping sites? I would say so long as they've got central heating. And do they need to be new, or is it fine if she can hook them onto something great about the local area, the local experiences? Who would like to answer that?
I can have a crack if you like. I mean, we're not obsessed with new things. Things don't need to be new all the time. I think you know, if it's a good or great product, if it's in a destination that we want to cover, that's really important. You know, we don't have to kind of have this constant search for newness. You know, we have pages where we highlight that kind of stuff. But if it's destination focused, it's really about what's a good experience for the reader. I mean, we do you know, generally kind of try to cover all accommodation and all budgets. Obviously, you know, if you're going long haul, the budget starts at a certain point. If you're camping anywhere really, you know, that budget can start at a much lower base. Campsites, I suppose more difficult to include because it's often essentially a field with, you know, places you can pitch a tent. But we've covered wild camping, we've covered you know, that kind of thing. Glamping is obviously you know, hugely variable in terms of the offering. You know, whether it's yurts, whether, you know, sometimes it's more expensive than a 5-star hotel. So we're interested in those as well. And again, I think if it's in a destination, if there's a local personality, if there's a story to tell there, again, like I say, you know, all of these things work well for us.
Terrific. That's great to hear. I'm going to ask on behalf of people tuning in, can we share your presentation with them afterwards? Maria, maybe?
Yeah, that's fine. I think somebody's already asked if we can just say what people do. I think what I might do is just pull together a list of the people here and the people not here as well, and just say what everybody does, because I think that might help you to then direct the queries to the right places, so that you're not bombarding all of us at the same time, and that you might get a response then too.
So we'll happily do that and direct people to each member of your team. Yeah. We kind of need to wrap there, but it's been lovely having you today. Maria and Pat, I've known you, I think, since the day you started at APL, about the same time as TravMedia started. Lovely having you. I've known Anthony Lyons, your lovely publisher, since a different millennium when he was a tour operator, so it's very special. Thank you so much for your input to the panel. You've been absolutely brilliant. It's been great having you here today. Thank you to our audience for your great questions. Thank you to my team, especially to Ali and Ash, for making today's webinar happen. Bit too early to say happy Christmas, but I will say we'll see you on the next one. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks. Bye. Bye.